Ichika is a dense loser who always disappoints his family by how weak he is. However, everything changes when he discovers he is the only male who can wield a powerful military weapon. So he enrolls in an all-girls battle school and claps all the girls who think they are stronger than him.
You mean that I'm going to be your first time?
It all begins when Ichika lucks out and gets admitted into the Infinite Stratos Academy. But the immature fool experiences difficulties on his first day at school because all his classmates are girls. Then Maya, the assistant homeroom teacher, enters Ichika's class and introduces herself accordingly. While she speaks, Ichika recognizes a childhood friend of his, Haoki, but struggles to gain her attention. It all becomes increasingly weird when he is called first to introduce himself to the class. However, the nervous idiot tries his best to stay cool, but ends up looking like an idiot when another lady smacks him in the head, who turns out to be none other than Chifuyu, Ichika's older sister. After Ichika recovers, he wonders what his sister is doing in his class, but soon realizes that she is the homeroom teacher, and after Chifuyu reveals her identity, the girls of the class get soaked and yell in excitement because she is quite a legendary figure. This is because Chifuyu was Japan's representative for the first Infinite Stratos pilot competition, but one day she suddenly retired and disappeared. Ichika wonders why his sister is a teacher at his school, which does not go unnoticed, as Chifuyu bullies him for his dumb behavior and gestures in class. Later that same day, Maya gives a lecture about the term RIZZ, which, according to her, stands for Infinite Stratos, which is a multiform suit from Japan. It was launched about 10 years ago to enable humans to move in space, but it has been halted due to a treaty that forbids the space equipment for warfare. Now it is being used solely for sport. The Infinite Stratos Academy is the only organization that offers RIZZ pilot training, and it accepts students from all parts of the world. Upon hearing this, Ichika expresses shock as he recalls the fact that only females can pilot the RIZZ, and he is the only male who can in that taco fest. After Ichika's first class, some girls who are hot and heavy gather in a corner, trying to summon the courage to speak to him. It only gets worse as Ichika overhears their conversations from a distance, but luckily Haoki arrives to save him from the torture and leads the way to another part of the school, so she can have a private space with Ichika. At first, she struggles to maintain a good conversation with Ichika, but she smiles when she gets complimented for her hair, which Ichika remembers looks the same from 6 years ago. Meanwhile, some students watch all that goes down from a distance and disperse at the sound of a bell, and after break time, Ichika sits in class troubled over the fact that he needs to memorize an entire manual. Maya, who is present in class, draws closer to him because of how worried he looks. When asked what's up, he replies by saying that the class material was too much for his singular brain cell, and this alone leaves Maya gagged. She soon finds out that he was the only idiot struggling. Chifuyu enters the class and first approaches Ichika to find out if he studied a particular book before being enrolled in the academy. But Ichika ends up giving the excuse that he threw away the said manual. The room temperature IQ idiot earns a slap to the head as punishment from his sister because of his unwavering carelessness. Even at that, Chifuyu promises to give Ichika another manual, and she makes it mandatory for him to finish the manual before the week ends. The rest of the students' jaws drop to the floor because of how strict Chifuyu is with her brother. During a free period, a student, Cecilia Alcott, gets close to Ichika and tries to converse with him, and he quickly learns that Cecilia is the narcissistic type. She is quick to reveal her status as the representative of England who placed first in the Academy's entrance exam. However, Ichika manages to burst her bubble by asking her dumb questions about a representative contender student. While shocked, Cecilia manages to maintain composure as she prepares to explain the said term. While explaining things to Ichika, Cecilia does not fail to remind him that she is of higher status than he is, and when she is done, she walks away and offers to teach Ichika a thing or two if he comes crying for help. But she is left gagged at some point after Ichika reveals that he defeated his invigilator during the physical testing exams. This alone shocked Cecilia because she thought she was the only one who defeated her invigilator. As time goes on, Ichika leaves class and heads to his dorm room to change and rest. After he gets in, he finds out that he has a female roommate who is none other than Haoki, who steps out of the shower thinking that another female is in the room. As the senseless bastard tries to make sense of his situation, Haoki beats the hell out of him for looking at her huge jugs and ends up chasing him out of the room. Now other girls are outside the door because of Ichika's issue with Haoki, and as their numbers scare Ichika, He ends up begging Haoki to let him back into the dorm room, who allows Ichika into the room and seeks to settle things with him. She speaks of some rules that will govern how they will share the bathroom and other resources in the room. Although the idea of sharing a room with a lady is quite weird, Ichika plays along since Haoki is his childhood friend. The following day during lunch break, Ichika sits beside Haoki enjoying a meal at the cafeteria. Haoki seems quite pissed at Ichika because of yesterday's incident, but she gets more pissed when other bimbos sit beside Ichika to eat. Sadly, Chifuyu's presence at the cafeteria makes Ichika and the other ladies wrap up their eating so they can attend a class. While in the first class after the lunch break, Chifuyu speaks about electing a class representative who will participate in tournaments and also attend student council meetings. When she calls for volunteers, two ladies stand up and nominate Ichika for the position. Since no other nominees are called, Chifuyu proceeds to pronounce Ichika as the class representative. However, Cecilia opposes the idea because she feels it is disgraceful for Ichika to lead her, and in the end, she challenges Ichika for the post of class rep. He foolishly agrees, thinking that he can easily overpower her in a duel since he was a dude. When Chifuyu approves of the contest, she tells both contestants to prepare for their duel in the coming days. The following day, Chifuyu informs her brother in class that he will be getting a personal suit since there is no spare suit in the academy. Upon hearing this, the other students express shock because it is a big deal for a student to have a personal suit. Cecilia, on the other hand, does not hesitate to mock Ichika again, claiming that she will be victorious in their duel. She outlines the fact that she has a personal suit too, since she is the cadet representative from England, and how there are only 467 ISs in the world, and the ones with personal suits are indeed elite among the human population. This alone makes another student dive into the concept of core for the respective ISs, as she emphasizes that the technology for the cores has never been disclosed, as they were all built by Dr. Shinanono Tabane. After hearing this, Ichika realizes that the doctor behind the cores is Haoki's elder sister, and while the student speaks about cores, Haoki's mood in class changes, and she looks the other way. It gets worse when Chifuyu tells the whole class that Dr. Tabane is Haoki's elder sister. Pissed, Haoki calls her classmates out, warning them that she is not her sister. The way she speaks makes Ichika wonder if she is not on good terms with her elder sister. Moving on, Maya begins a lecture session in class about the relationship between humans and ISs. She speaks about the IS's unit, which encloses its wielder's entire body within a special energy barrier. While she explains the said concept, the idiot Ichika fails to understand what she is saying about the discount Evangelion suits. After Maya is done with the lecture, Ichika notices that Haoki is still in a bad mood, and out of concern for her, he tries to persuade her to join him for lunch, but Haoki lashes out at Ichika and ends up clobbering him to the ground. This ends up drawing the attention of other students, but he still insists on taking Haoki to lunch, who lowers her guard as Ichika grabs her hand, heading for the cafeteria. While eating lunch, Ichika begs Haoki to teach him things about the ISs, because he feels he might get bodied by Cecilia if he fights her in his condition. At first, Haoki hesitates to respond, but when another female student arrives and volunteers to teach Ichika, Haoki opposes her and tells Ichika that she will teach him in her simp mode. Later that day after school hours, Ichika spars against Haoki using a wooden sword and easily becomes weak within an hour of training, and this irritates Haoki, who in anger questions Ichika about how he became so weak over the years. Before Ichika can get any words in, Haoki informs him that he will train every day after school. Later that day in the female's locker room, Haoki stops for a second and wonders if she is being too harsh on Ichika. She has reason to believe that Ichika has changed over the past 6 years. Back then, Ichika and Haoki trained outside a dojo with a wooden sword. This memory makes Haoki think about the time when Ichika held her hand earlier in school. However, she snaps back into reality and tries her best to ignore the thought. About a week later, lots of students sit around an arena waiting to watch Cecilia's battle with Ichika. Sadly, Haoki informs Ichika that his IS has not been delivered yet. This bothers him for a while, but he loosens up when Maya tells him that his personal IS has just arrived. While the said suit is being revealed, Maya tells Ichika to prepare for his duel. Upon seeing the suit, Ichika expresses shock, but he soon prepares to mount it. Ichika wastes no time to mount his suit, and when he does, Haoki tells him to come back with a win. After hearing this, Ichika smiles and flies off to the battle arena, ready to fight Cecilia. At the battle arena, Cecilia brags and tells Ichika to apologize to her so she can end the battle swiftly. Ichika's ego does not let him consider the option, and as such, he takes a blast from Cecilia's cannon as Ichika tries to regain himself after Cecilia's initial strike, but as much as he is on the defensive, he struggles to keep up with Cecilia's speed. At some point, Ichika deploys a sword and flies towards Cecilia's position, and Cecilia mocks him for deploying a close-range weapon since she is using a cannon. And another thing is that Ichika's energy barrier decreases gradually as he uses speed to evade Cecilia's attacks. Then he flies at an insane speed in the quest to dodge some projectiles from Cecilia. This shocks the students present at the battle arena, and even Maya, who watches from behind a screen, and at some point, Ichika figures out an important detail about Cecilia's fighting technique. As he dodges the last two projectiles, he falls victim to a trap set by Cecilia, but luckily, his suit saves him and prevents him from taking damage, and after the smoke clears out, Cecilia realizes that Ichika has been fighting against her using his suit's default settings. Now Ichika has a hang of his suit, and he means business. The weapon he is using is the one Chifuyu used in her prime, and with this in mind, he alters the form of the weapon and uses it to engage Cecilia in another round of combat. Scared, Cecilia launches a bunch of projectiles at Ichika, but he fails to hit her target. Ichika sees through all the projectiles and moves swiftly to dodge them. While at it, he prepares a nasty attack to take Cecilia out once and for all. However, his suit runs out of energy when his sword is barely a few inches closer to Cecilia's suit, and the battle ends, and Cecilia is pronounced the winner. After the duel, Ichika meets up with his sister and questions her about why he lost. She tells him that it was because he activated the barrier nullification attack, which used his own shield points as ammo. In the meantime, Maya hands Ichika a fat manual that contains all the information he needs to know about ISs. Upon seeing the book, Ichika sweats heavily since he was no smarter than a goldfish with a DHD. Later at sunset, Ichika and Haoki walk together, heading for their dorm room, and on the way, Haoki reminds Ichika that IS training lessons will begin soon, and she would like to teach him. Ichika smiles at the idea and voices out, saying that he is more comfortable with Haoki than the other girls. This alone engraves a smile on Haoki's face, and she looks forward to training Ichika. Meanwhile, Cecilia is somewhere in the shower with her massive cannons out, wondering why she feels funny, even though she is the one who won the duel. The following day, all students from Ichika's class gather at the training arena to begin a training exercise. Chifuyu instructs Cecilia to deploy her IS, and she does accordingly, but then it is time for Ichika to do the same. He experiences difficulties at first, but he gets the hang of it on the second trial. And then, Cecilia flies into the atmosphere first, while Ichika follows after her. While in flight, Chifuyu tells Ichika to fly faster since his suit is way faster than Cecilia's. Cecilia, on the other hand, notices that Ichika is having issues with increasing his flight speed, and as a result, she politely offers to teach Ichika after classes if he agrees, since he had activated her desperate chick mode. Before Ichika can get his words in, Chifuyu instructs Cecilia to demonstrate a special landing style. But the foolish Ichika follows after her to perform the same special landing style and loses control of his IS and crashes into the ground, looking like someone's stepsister stuck in the washing machine. After the smoke clears out, Ichika powers down his IS and tries to catch his breath. And this time, Haoki is the first to scold Ichika, but Cecilia pushes her away just so she can have her fill of bullying the idiot. Cecilia is now acting weird towards Ichika because she behaved rudely to him in the past, but now she expresses concern about his health and wishes to personally take him to the infirmary. However, her plan fails as Haoki arrives at the scene and tells her that Ichika is fine, and within seconds, Ichika finds himself in between two hot girls deep in a verbal catfight arguing about his well-being. Later at sunset, a transfer student gets into the academy, looking forward to a wonderful experience there, and that evening, Ichika gets celebrated as the new class representative of his class because Cecilia willingly withdrew from the position. Haoki, who was present at the time, is pissed because Ichika is quite popular among the touch-starved women. Her mood gets worse when a lady from the newspaper club tells Ichika to pose for a picture with Cecilia, and as time passes, Haoki and Ichika retire to their dorm room to rest for the night. Here, Haoki aims a pillow at Ichika and tells him to look the other way so she can change into her robe, which sends all blood between his legs. She slides out a barrier that will block Ichika's view if he gets any freaky ideas. The sound of Haoki's zip moving up and down makes Ichika all tingly in his downstairs region, but he maintains composure until Haoki is done changing. After Haoki is done doing her thing, Ichika gazes at her and compliments her nightie, and this alone brightens Haoki's mood a little as she prepares to sleep. And while she lies on her bed, she calls Ichika and apologizes to him for being a blockhead earlier in the day. The following day, word spreads in class that the interclass tournament is starting soon, and one of Ichika's classmates speaks of a transfer student from China. But after hearing about the girl, Cecilia feels confident that she can annihilate the transfer student in battle without any issues, but the transfer student in question is none other than Rin, who is in a different class, but steps into Ichika's class and reveals that she is the cadet representative from China. Cecilia, on the other hand, wonders why Rin is acting all friendly toward Ichika. However, Chifuyu enters the classroom and spoils the fun by sending Rin over to her class. Later that day, during lunch break, Ichika gets food at the cafeteria with Rin, Cecilia, and Haoki. Since Ichika is spending most of his time talking to Rin, Haoki does not bother to join him at his table. While eating, Rin questions Ichika about how he was able to activate an IS in the past. As Ichika explains himself, he recalls what happened to him back then. At that time, Ichika entered a testing facility for an entrance exam. There, he lost his way and ended up in a room where an IS unit was kept. He touched the unit out of sheer curiosity, and it activated, and other officials stormed into the room shortly afterwards, shocked that an IS responded to Ichika's command.
You are gay.
Ichika explains what happened in the past and how he got into the academy, but at some point, Haoki and Cecilia get fed up with Rin hogging Ichika all to herself. Both girls demand to explain his relationship with Rin, and he does, saying that Rin is just his childhood friend. After Haoki hears this, she lowers her guard a little and becomes more excited when Ichika introduces her as his first childhood friend. While everything plays out, Cecilia feels left out because she is not related to Ichika in any way, and she tries to gain everyone's attention by speaking about herself, but Rin ignores her. It gets to a point where Haoki and Rin argue about who spent the most time with Ichika when they were young, but the argument ends as the school bell goes off. At sunset, Ichika enters into a training session with Haoki and Cecilia teams up with Haoki to beat the hell out of Ichika, and it does not end well for the loser, because Ichika lies weak on the ground, struggling to breathe. At the end of the training session, Cecilia is the first to leave the training arena, while Haoki follows after her, leaving Ichika behind to catch his breath. Ichika makes it into the school's main building, but he worries over the fact that he could not take on Haoki and Cecilia. While swimming in his thoughts, Rin meets up with him again and offers him a warm towel, and wastes no time initiating a personal conversation with Ichika. Since she is alone, she asks Ichika to know if he has been lonely without her, but she does not get the answer she wants, and she changes her attitude when she learns that Ichika and Haoki are roommates. After the conversation with Ichika, Rin packs her bags to Haoki's room, trying to persuade Haoki to swap rooms with her and tries to pull a fast one on Haoki by playing the childhood trick. But Haoki sees through her and declines the offer, so Rin speaks to Ichika about a promise they made in middle school. After deliberately ignoring Haoki, who is telling her to leave the dorm room, Woi gets enough of Rin and takes up a wooden sword and tries to use it on her. But Rin partially deploys her IS and uses it to block Haoki's attack. Gagged at her strength, Haoki powers down and lets Rin continue the conversation with Ichika. During the conversation, Ichika recalls the promise he made to Rin about eating her home-cooked meals every single day, but he misses the whole point of it in pure dense virgin fashion, and he voices this out, at which Rin smacks him in the face and leaves the dorm room angrily. In her absence, Haoki stares at Ichika, wishing that the bastard got soloed from a horse kick. On the day of the interclass tournament, Ichika is staged to face Rin in a duel, and he flies out into the battle arena. He studies Rin's IS to know what strategy he will use against her. Cecilia says some words of encouragement to Ichika, while Haoki tells him to stick to what he learned during their training session, or she would stick a kendo sword where the sun don't shine. Moments later, Ichika flies out to the battle arena so that he can face his opponent. Rin, who midair, boasts and tells Ichika that she will go easy on him if only he apologizes. Ichika, on the other hand, cares a lot about his ego, so he chooses not to accept Rin's offer. He intends to fight against Rin without holding back. The duel begins as both contestants prepare speed attacks for themselves. Rin dodges the first attack and tries to land a fast one on Ichika, but she misses her target. This alone makes Rin compliment Ichika for doing well, and as their battle continues, Cecilia, who watches from behind a screen, wishes that Ichika pulls off a specific move called Ignition Boost that he learned during his training session. Meanwhile, Chifuyu remains silent and stares at the screen. Back outside, Ichika finds himself set on the defensive, and he thinks deeply about how he will attack Rin. It goes on to a point where Rin summons a nasty blast at him, but he dodges, but the attack was just a trap to get Ichika to a particular position in midair. Before he can realize himself, he falls victim to a nasty blast from Rin's cannon. Fortunately, the energy barrier on Ichika's suit protects his body from taking any damage, and as he struggles to stand up, Rin wastes no time to shoot high-speed projectiles at him, and despite being weak, Ichika dodges the projectiles and manages to regain himself completely. Meanwhile, Haoki and the others watching behind a screen fear that Ichika might not have a chance against Rin's suit. Back outside, Ichika recalls a time in the past when he was training for the tournament. Back then, he wondered why he only had a sword as a weapon, but Chifuyu told him that the weapon was enough for her to fight in her time. In the present, Ichika recalls that moment and then tells Rin that he will go all out on her, and this time, Ichika means business, and he intends to use a unique skill Chifuyu taught him to finish the battle, which, according to Chifuyu, allows one to accelerate to top speed even faster than Ignition Boost in a flash to approach the enemy. However, it can only be used once in a duel, and soon Ichika picks up speed to the extent that Rin loses track of his movements. Just before Ichika can land the finishing strike, a beam blast shatters the energy barrier protecting the arena and disrupts the duel. Immediately, Maya alerts Chifuyu by saying that an external entity penetrated the arena's energy field. After hearing this, Chifuyu gives an order for the match to be suspended so that the other students can evacuate the area. Within seconds, the fighting arena is placed on lockdown, and Ichika finds out that the match has been suspended. While the smoke at the arena clears out, Rin notices that an unidentified IS is locked onto her. Despite that, she intends to engage the enemy alone, but Ichika does not like the idea. An argument begins between the two, as Ichika tries to convince Rin not to fight alone. Ichika quickly moves to block the beam aimed at Rin, making sure she didn't get hurt. He carries her using his IS unit and flies her away from harm. While in midair, Ichika looks down and sees the enemy below him. Based on what he sees, he wonders if the enemy is wielding an IS or not. While Ichika tries to make sense of his situation, Maya sends a transmission to him, telling him to evacuate the area. The stubborn and turd-brained Ichika refuses her order, claiming that he wants to hold the enemy off until all the students are safe. Soon, the transmission ends and Ichika lets go of Rin. Both contestants form a united front to fight against the enemy, but despite being outnumbered, the enemy manages to set Rin and Ichika on the defensive in the first few minutes of their battle, but then Rin leads an attack against the enemy, and Ichika follows behind her. Maya, on the other hand, panics when she sees Rin and Ichika flying into a cloud, but Chifuyu tells her to stay calm. Cecilia, who is currently with Maya, begs Chifuyu to allow her to assist Ichika and Rin in battle. In turn, Chifuyu replies by showing her that all doors in the facility are locked. Now, Ichika and Rin are on their own, and they need to hold out until reinforcements reach the facility. Back at the battle arena, Ichika tries to take advantage of an opening to land a fatal attack on the enemy. As he attempts the attack, his target picks up speed and causes him to miss. Now, Ichika's energy levels are low because of the amount of speed attacks he tried to land on the enemy. He has only one shot left at defeating the enemy, and he wishes to take it. In the meantime, Rin evades multiple shots that the enemy fires at her. While at it, she wonders what she will do to up her chances of defeating the enemy. At some point, Ichika flies close to her position and tells her about the possibility of the enemy being an unmanned IS unit. He wonders if someone is piloting the IS unit, but Rin emphasizes that an IS unit can only be controlled by a human. Even at that, Ichika smiles at the possibility of the enemy being an unmanned IS unit, because he will be free to go all out on it without any casualties. And when he voices out his thoughts, Rin likes his idea and looks forward to acting according to his plan. Soon, Haoki arrives at the scene and calls Ichika's attention. Here, she dares Ichika to win against the enemy, but the enemy powers up again like a Dragon Ball Hacks mode and prepares to fire its cannon. This time, Ichika is ready for the enemy, and as such, he tells Rin to shoot a beam blast at him, and while at first, Rin gets second thoughts, she does as instructed since she is running out of options, and as Ichika feels the impact of Rin's blast, the energy levels of his suit increase, and he powers up even more. Despite receiving all that juice, the flop fails to land the finishing strike on his target. As a result, he gets countered and punched to the ground. As he struggles to regain himself, the enemy draws closer to him, but he is smiling, and then before all hell can break loose, Cecilia arrives fully equipped with her RIZZ and shoots a fatal blast at the enemy. As the enemy falls weak to the ground, Ichika tells Cecilia he knew she would come. Cecilia, on the other hand, tries hard not to let her feminine lusty side take over.
Okay.
Suddenly, the enemy recovers and attempts a nasty attack on Ichika. This time, Ichika dives directly at the enemy to defeat it. At sunset, Ichika regains consciousness and finds himself lying on a bed in the infirmary. Sitting beside him is Rin, who feels concerned about his health, but had just tried to kiss him in pure predator fashion. When asked about the enemy RIZZ, Rin replies by saying that it stopped working. After hearing this, Ichika smiles and reminds Rin of their promise in middle school. It goes on to a point where Ichika asks Rin about her parents. Her parents divorced is what Rin replies to Ichika, while staring out the window. After hearing this, Ichika stays silent for a while, and then asks Rin to hang out with him in the future. Rin likes the idea, but before she can rejoice, Cecilia enters the room to see Ichika and, upon seeing Rin, looks pissed, because they both agreed to enter the room at the same time. Haoki enters the room seconds later and becomes pissed at Cecilia and Rin, because they all agreed to check up on Ichika at the same time. Meanwhile, Chifuyu and Maya are somewhere in the academy's main building, analyzing the enemy RIZZ. Based on Maya's findings, the enemy RIZZ is unmanned, and when she voices out, Chifuyu stares in silence, wondering what is going on. The following day, Ichika plays a video game with his childhood friend named Dan. While they are at it, Dan's sister Ran steps in to remind her brother that the food is ready. Upon seeing Ichika in the room, she becomes uncomfortable because of the way she is dressed in her sleep clothes. Finally, Dan warns her to knock when she wants to enter his room, so her crush would not accidentally cop a glimpse of her honkers, which Ran nearly passes out after hearing. As time goes on, Ichika and Dan enjoy a meal in Ran's restaurant. As Ichika eats, the shy Ran casually tells Ichika to enjoy his meal after changing into a more appealing and revealing outfit. She is uncomfortable and flustered when around him, but Ichika is just too dumb to notice. Later that evening, after Ichika arrives at his dorm room, Maya steps in and informs Haoki that she will have to move out of the room. And then Haoki expresses shock at the matter and asks Maya if she has to move out immediately. Maya replies by emphasizing that two teenagers of the opposite gender cannot share rooms, but Ichika does not seem bothered in the slightest by the turn of events, and his dense virgin comments infuriate Haoki to the extent that she decides to move out immediately. Even at that, Ichika is just too brainless to know why Haoki is pissed, and as more time goes on, Haoki arrives at the idiot's dorm room to say a few words. When given a chance to speak, Haoki tells Ichika that she wants to go out with him if she comes out successful in the all-class individual tournament coming up in the next month. Little does she know that 3 desperate students are eavesdropping on her conversation with Ichika, and the following day, it did not take long for a rumor about Haoki's proposal to spread among the female students. Cecilia, who is in class at the time, struggles to understand what is going on, and Haoki plays along too until soon, Chifuyu arrives and calls the classroom to order. And after everyone assumes their seats, Maya catches everyone's attention by introducing a new transfer student to the class. The transfer student is none other than Charles Dunois, a male student from France, and although he seems like a wet sock femboy, all the girls in the class cheer loudly. This is because they have another male student, but at some point, Chifuyu gets tired of the desperate harlot noises and silences the class, before she goes on and informs her students that they have to observe a training session with another class. And before she concludes her announcement, she assigns Ichika to Charles since he is a fellow dude, and immediately, Ichika holds Charles by the hand and leads the way out of class. On the way to the boys' locker room, some girls rally up against them just to see the new male transfer student. However, Ichika and Charles pass through another alley to get to their destination. They finally escape from the horndogs to the locker room where Ichika starts undressing, but Charles blushes and asks if Ichika could look the other way while he changed, which he agrees to, saying he was not a huge fan of peeping at dudes while they changed. And Charles speedruns his outfit change, which gags Ichika, and he complains about the trouble of having no underwear beneath the Infinite Stratos suit, and then compliments Charles's well-made suit, which he explains is from the Dunois company, which his father owned. The two of them head outside and Chifuyu is quick to tell Cecilia and Rin to do a mock battle before the class, since they both had personal IS units, and while initially unmotivated, they get fired up when Chifuyu mentions that it is a good time to impress her little brother by showing off. The two are just about to start fighting when Chifuyu tells them that they would be fighting against someone else, and before she can clarify, Maya comes falling out of the sky and crashes into Ichika, who gets plowed into the ground once more. And when he comes to, he realizes that he is copying a feel of Maya's honkers, and she is weirdly into it.
Perfect.
Talking about how being related to Chifuyu would not be so bad. But this act of unintentional freakiness pisses Cecilia and Rin off, who immediately try to end Ichika. But Maya protects him, and Chifuyu tells the two jealous girls that they would both be teaming up and fighting against Maya, but their chances of winning were super low, since she was an old national representative candidate with insane skills. The girls take it lightly, and the battle begins while Charles explains to Chifuyu that Maya's Infinite Stratos was one made by his father's company. Meanwhile, Maya claps the two and leaves them on the ground like a pile of trash. After this, Chifuyu tells everyone that they would be doing joint exercises, and all the people with personal suits including Charles, Ichika, Cecilia, and Rin would be the group leaders, and the girls are not pleased as they watch Charles and Ichika get swarmed by a bunch of soaked women, who use the exercise as an excuse to get all close to the XY chromosomes in their batch. A short-haired girl named Kyoka introduces herself, and a ton of other girls join which pisses Haoki off, who is watching all of this from a distance. And when Ichika is done teaching Kyoka how to pilot the suit, he finds out that Haoki is next. But she cannot board the suit, so Ichika has to carry her like a tsundere princess to the cockpit, which makes her heart sing as she loses her cool and asks Ichika to join her for lunch, sometimes if he had no other commitments, which he agrees to. However, Haoki's excitement does not last long when she learns that Charles, Cecilia, and Rin had tagged along because the more the merrier, and each of the girls had brought homemade lunches to try and win Ichika over. Ichika tries Cecilia's homemade English sandwiches and nearly throws up, but tries to keep his cool, and then he eats Haoki's fried chicken, which sends him into a foodgasm, causing him to feed Haoki by hand. After that, she tries to brush off why she only brought lunch for one, not wanting to reveal that she has gobbled all the failed lunches she had prepped before perfecting that one for her boy toy. All the chicks are ready to rumble when Charles calms them down and proposes that they all trade lunches, which they agree to, and Cecilia and Rin quickly rush to try and feed Ichika. Later that day, Ichika and Charles are in their room and discussing how he always practices after school because he was a slow learner and borderline idiot, and Charles offers to join him since he was a national representative and it would help. Ichika is stoked at the offer. The next day, a new transfer student is announced to be joining their class, which makes the girls wonder why so many transfer students were joining, but they all shut up when a ball-buster baddie named Laura walks in with a stern look and introduces herself, referring to Chifuyu as her master, which reminds Ichika that his older sister had spent time in Germany, and that is probably where they knew each other from. Before he can form any more thoughts, Laura walks up and smacks him across the face, declaring that she would never accept him since he was a wimpy deadbeat loser compared to his older sister, which leaves the entire class clocked. Later that morning during a training session with other students, Rin, Cecilia, and Haoki go hard on Ichika because he doesn't know some elementary IS unit operations. In the heat of the moment, Charles arrives and saves Ichika from being eaten raw by his respective female trainers. But then after he steps in, he declares that he intends to face Ichika in a training duel and immediately flies to the other side of the arena, ready to begin. Other students gather nearby, eager to watch the duel. It kicks off with Ichika charging in for a speed attack, but Charles blocks immediately and soars into the sky, firing a barrage of bullets at him using an automated machine gun. At one point, Ichika recklessly speeds up to exploit an opening, but ends up falling into a positional trap. Charlotte doesn't waste a second as he switches to sniper fire, each shot gradually chipping away at his energy shield, and to nobody's surprise, Ichika gets brutally mogged and clapped. After the match, Charles gives him a calm but insightful breakdown of why he lost, but his clarity makes Rin, Cecilia, and Haoki jealous as they couldn't get through to Ichika before, and now Charles just explains it once, and he gets it through his extra thick skull. To help him improve, Charles hands Ichika his long-range weapon so he can work on his aim, and then he coaches him on posture and focus, and with his help, Ichika lands over 50% accuracy on his first try. Rin, seeing this, grows more jealous when suddenly, Laura appears in her unit, catching everyone's attention as she announces that she wants to duel Ichika. When he refuses, she blasts a beam right at him, but fortunately Charles blocks it just in time, jumping to protect him. Before things escalate, Chifuyu arrives and orders everyone to disperse. Laura powers down like an obedient German shepherd, and as she walks away, Rin, Cecilia, and Haoki start grilling Ichika about his history with Laura. Later that afternoon, Ichika sits silently in the boys' locker room when Charles shows up, and Ichika thanks him for standing up to Laura, and Charles, who normally should shower there, says that he will change in his dorm room instead. Confused, Ichika tries to make him stay and use the locker room, but he insists on leaving, and as he sprints away, Ichika is left wondering what's up with him. Once he's done showering, Ichika walks through a nearby field and remembers the moment Laura slapped him in class. But he snapped out of his thoughts by overhearing Laura and Chifuyu about how Laura wants Chifuyu to leave the academy and return to Germany. She argues that Ichika and the other students are unworthy of being her pupils, but Chifuyu shuts that BS down, telling Laura to remember her place and to return to her dorm. As Laura runs off, Chifuyu senses Ichika nearby and tells him to train harder so he doesn't lose in the upcoming interclass league. Before starting to walk away, but Ichika stops her, asking if Laura's hostility toward him has something to do with the past. Before he can finish, Chifuyu cuts him off by telling him that the past is in the past. Around then, the second IS International Fighting Tournament arrived, and Ichika had been kidnapped just before the finals, where he was tied up and imprisoned, and Chifuyu dropped out of the tournament to save him. Her withdrawal caused a scandal, but to return the favor to the German military who had informed her of Ichika's location, she remained in Germany afterward and became an IS instructor. Ichika blames himself for derailing her career because he sees himself as nothing but a helpless burden of a brother who always needed to be saved. Later, Ichika returns to his dorm and finds that Charles is still in the bathroom and the body wash is sitting outside. So he heads in to give it to him, but when he finally goes in, he is shocked to learn that Charles is actually a girl with voluptuous melons. Damn! He handles the revelation calmly and sits on the bed while Charles dries off. The mood is awkward, but Ichika at least tries to lighten it by offering her tea. Unfortunately, he burns his hands spilling it and fumbles around to wash it off. Charles helps, and the moment softens. They sit and talk. The girl reveals that she's not a real member of the Dunhua family and how her biological mother died. She was taken in by the Dunhua company, who discovered she had a high IS aptitude, so they tested her, made her a pilot, and she only met her so-called father a few times. Now, the Dunhua company is in trouble because they're failing to research third-gen IS units, and may lose development rights. So, his daughter's role is mostly to gather publicity and collect data on Ichika's IS unit. When she's done, Ichika gets pissed. He asks if she's okay being used like that, and he tells her about being abandoned by his parents, and says no kid deserves to be exploited. He asks what she wants for herself, and she says she could get expelled, or even worse, if anyone finds out she's a girl. But Ichika reads from the school's constitution, reminding her that a student here isn't bound to any country or group, and that she's free to choose her path at least until graduation. This hits home as she smiles and thanks him for keeping her secret. Just then, Cecilia knocks. Panicking, Ichika tucks her into bed, and when Cecilia walks in, she sees Ichika patting Charles on the head, trying to lull him to sleep. Suspicious, she asks what's going on. Ichika lies and says Charles is sick as she plays along, letting Cecilia take Ichika out to dinner. On the way, they bump into Haoki, who becomes instantly jealous. She grabs Ichika, not wanting Cecilia to have him to herself. Time passes. Ichika returns to the dorm sweaty and flustered. When his female roommate asks what happened, he brushes it off and hands her food. She's nervous as she's never used chopsticks before, so Ichika ends up feeding her himself, and to her, it's awkward but sweet since she likes how he treats her. Later that night, Laura sits alone, staring into the sky. She removes her eye patch and solemnly swears to eliminate Ichika. In her eyes, he's the one holding Chifuyu back. The next day, Cecilia and Rin hear the rumor that the winner of the upcoming tournament will get to go out with Ichika. Haoki feels uncomfortable when the girls hear this because she might have been the cause of the rumor. Ichika and Charles arrive shortly after. Later that morning, Haoki stands alone, wondering why the rumor spread so fast. Despite that, she fixates on winning the tournament, and while doing so, she recalls a time in the past when she was in 4th grade. Back then, she was on her way to winning the national kendo competition, but lost by default after missing it due to her sister's IS presentation. And people grew concerned with IS technology's potential as a weapon, forcing Haoki's family to constantly move for safety. Not too long after that, she was separated from her parents, and her elder sister went missing. But that did not stop her from resuming her kendo training, believing it was her sole connection to Ichika, her childhood friend. One day during a spar, she lost her temper and went berserk and hurt her opponent, which moved them to tears. It was an act that she regretted every single day, and it then led her to wonder if she could win the tournament with her temper unchecked and her daddy issues. Meanwhile, Rin and Cecilia head to the training arena, agreeing to settle who's stronger, and Cecilia's arrogance pisses Rin off, and she deploys her IS unit for a heated fight. Things soon escalate when Laura arrives, interrupting their match. Intimidated but hiding it, Cecilia and Rin accept Laura's challenge to fight her together. Laura talks a lot of smack about their suits so viciously that they charge recklessly at her, and it is not long before Ichika and Charlotte discover the fight in the arena. Haoki joins them, watching as Laura demolishes Cecilia and Rin. Rin tries concentrated beam attacks, but Laura blocks them with an energy barrier, shocking everyone, and Haoki stays calm, recognizing the technique, while Charlotte explains that it was an AIC system common in third-generation IS units. Meanwhile, in the battle, Laura restrains Rin and baits Cecilia into a trap, blasting them both to the ground. When they recover, Laura overpowers them again, beating them like ragdolls until their energy barriers nearly fail. Ichika slams the arena barrier, demanding Laura stop, but she smirks, which is the last straw, prompting Ichika to break in with his IS. He's instantly humbled by Laura's energy field. But Charlotte distracts her with gunfire, letting Ichika rescue Cecilia and Rin. Just as Laura aims her cannon at Ichika, he turbo boosts out of her scope like a cheetah on espresso. He drops the girls safely, while Charles gets tangled in Laura's ropes. Laura prepares to finish Charles, but Chifuyu appears, blocking the strike with a single sword. Terrified of the drill master, Laura stands down. Chifuyu, pissed about the destroyed arena, bans all sparring until the tournament. Later, Ichika and Charles visit Cecilia and Rin in the infirmary, and Charles asks why they fought Laura, making the girls choke on their drinks because their real reason of simping for their boy toy is too embarrassing to admit. Cecilia claims Laura insulted her pride as a woman, but Charles sees through them and clocks the desperate bimbos. Meanwhile, Ichika, clueless as ever, accidentally touches their injuries while trying to mediate, and a barrage of students then bursts in, announcing that the upcoming tournament requires pairs of pilots, and all of the girls want to pair up with a loser. But Ichika picks Charles as his partner, devastating the others. Cecilia and Rin beg to pair with him, but Maya delivers the final blow about how their IS units are too damaged to compete. Now they're stuck scheming to stop Haoki from winning Ichika. That evening, Charles thanks Ichika for choosing her and reveals that her real name was Charlotte. In their dorm, he tells her she doesn't need to speak like a boy around him. She agrees, admitting she was trained to, but will use her real voice in private. A week later, the tournament begins. Ichika and Charlotte suit up only to freeze when the screen reveals their first opponents, Haoki and Laura. As the match begins, Charlotte and Ichika face off against Haoki and Laura at the battle arena, and surprisingly, Ichika seems eager to fight them, immediately charging at Laura when the signal sounds. But he quickly gets brutally mogged and falls victim to Laura's energy field that restricts his movements, but despite being immobilized, Ichika maintains eye contact with Laura and smiles as she prepares to fire her cannon at him. Just in time, Charlotte intervenes with a beam blast, forcing Laura on the defensive. Haoki reminds them she's still a threat, prompting Charlotte and Ichika to coordinate their attack, but as they prepare to strike Haoki together, Laura suddenly shoves Haoki aside with her ropes, showing complete disregard for her partner. Ichika manages to hold his own against Laura, while Charlotte prevents Haoki from flanking them. A well-placed shot from her temporarily disables Haoki's IS energy supply, and Ichika supercharges his unit for an all-out assault on Laura, but gets trapped in her energy field again. Charlotte comes to his rescue once more, their teamwork putting Laura on the back foot. Just as Ichika attempts his signature move, his IS runs out of energy, and he crashes to the ground.
Do me a favor, please. Get out of here.
Charlotte immediately picks up the slack, engaging Laura in close combat with armor-piercing rounds, and when Laura leaves herself open, Charlotte delivers an energy-draining attack that leaves her vulnerable. and as he overwhelms Laura with a series of powerful strikes, Laura thinks about her tragic past. Some German military scientists implanted a nanochip in her eye to enhance RIZZ compatibility, but she was deemed a failure until Chifuyu took her under her wing. Learning that Chifuyu's weakness was her little brother filled Laura with rage, who saw him as a burden on her mentor mommy, and consumed by this anger, Laura activates her experimental nanotech and transforms into a monstrous form, which she has no control over. Chifuyu declares an emergency, locking down the arena. The transformed Laura quickly overwhelms Ichika, disarming him with techniques copied from Chifuyu. As Ichika lies bleeding, Haoki snaps him out of his reckless fury by slapping him back to his senses. Remembering Chifuyu's sword training about not letting weapons control the wielder, Ichika prepares for one final attack as Charles transfers all her remaining energy to Ichika's RIZZ, allowing him to manifest an energy sword. Against everyone's protests, Ichika channels immense energy into his blade and delivers a single, perfect strike that defeats Laura, while simultaneously reaching her through their mental link, and in the aftermath, Laura wakes in the infirmary where Chifuyu advises her to find her own identity, rather than trying to become someone else, since she could never catch up to her mentor mommy. That evening, Ichika and Charlotte enjoy dinner together as other students despair at their overwhelming strength. When Haoki arrives, Ichika surprises her by declaring he will go out with her as promised, because she has always wanted to date Ichika. However, her happiness is short-lived when Ichika attaches shopping to the end of going out. The clueless idiot gets punched in the face after giving Haoki high hopes for a relationship.
Do me a favor, please. Get out of here.
The following day, something strange happens in class, as Maya introduces Charlotte as a transfer student with her feminine name and accurate gender. This alone shocks all the students in the class, but Haoki is left more affected by the news, and things get worse as Rin breaks out of her classroom just to confront Ichika for lying about Charlotte the whole time. But before Ichika can get barbecued, Laura arrives and deploys a barrier to negate Rin's shot. She then expresses her feelings to Ichika with a hungry kiss. What the fuck? Leaving Charlotte, Maya, and the other girls interested in Ichika utterly stunned. After the lip-fondling session ends, Laura publicly asks Ichika to be her bride. Meanwhile, the morally confused Ichika looks lost after Laura makes her intentions clear. That night, Shinano no Tabane gets a call from her younger sister Haoki. The way Tabane answers makes Haoki want to hang up, but she keeps her on the line by mentioning a specially made RIZZ unit for her. The next morning, Ichika wakes up to find Laura lying next to him. Shocked, he tries to escape from Laura's advances but fails. Unfortunately for the dense virgin, Haoki walks in and misunderstands the situation between Ichika and Laura. Haoki ends up hitting Ichika with a wooden stick. After the whole whipping session, Ichika heads to town with Charlotte. While on the train, Ichika sits in pain, regretting why Laura joined him in bed. He snaps out of his thoughts at some point and reminds Charlotte of the upcoming beach class, which is why he asked her to tag along, so that she could buy a feminine swimsuit.
Okay.
After the pair gets off the train, Charlotte forces Ichika to hold her hand while they walk in town. Ichika agrees instantly and leads the way to a mall, but little does he know that Cecilia and Rin are keeping close tabs on him. Rin finds it hard to believe that Charlotte is holding hands with Ichika, and she goes as far as asking Cecilia if what she is seeing is true, making sure that her eyes are not deceiving her. After Rin realizes that she is not hallucinating, she makes up her mind to eliminate Charlotte. However, Laura arrives at the scene and ruins the mood. From the looks of things, she is on the same page with Cecilia and Rin since she also wants Ichika for herself, and as knowing glances are exchanged, she joins the girls to keep close tabs on Ichika and Charlotte. Ichika, on the other hand, makes a stop in front of a mall. Here, he comes up with a pet name for Charlotte since her original name is now used by everyone now that it was out that she was not a dude. Charlotte likes the idea of getting a pet name because it makes her feel special to Ichika. Moving on, Ichika breaks off with Charlotte to buy some items from a store. While he is away, Dan and Ran walk out of a store holding some items in their hands. It is revealed to him that Ran is shopping because of the beach class happening in the academy very soon. And while she explains her plans to Dan, Ichika appears from nowhere. Ran becomes girly and giggly again when she finds out that Ichika is shopping too. A conversation begins between the group as Ran reveals that she will attend the RIZZ Academy very soon. She intends to join Ichika in the school and looks forward to a good relationship with him. Ichika likes the idea, but he leaves the scene as soon as Charlotte arrives. Charlotte leads the way to a bikini shop. Out of curiosity, Ichika questions Charlotte about what is going on. and she replies by saying that she wants to show him her bikini. She does not add that Cecilia, Rin, and Laura are outside looking for them. Laura is currently in the store, taking notes of the different bikinis on display. A conversation between random strangers makes her realize that she needs to up her game if she really wants to entice Ichika with her womanhood. After Charlotte assaults him by taking her clothes off next to him, he is gagged and turns away, and when Charlotte is done changing, Ichika compliments her bikini, and as such she decides to buy it. Chifuyu passes by the changing room with Maya and hears Ichika's voice. Out of sheer curiosity, she opens the curtain to confirm if she heard her brother's voice or not. As expected, she sees Ichika shivering with Charlotte. Maya ends up giving Ichika and Charlotte a lecture about morals and other related stuff about bedroom gymnastics.
What do you mean by that?
Then, from a distance, Cecilia and Rin observe the situation while Laura gets on a call with her colleague Clarissa. She explains her concerns about Ichika to Clarissa, seeking advice on how to attract him. Clarissa, who shares Laura's mindset, becomes upset when she learns Laura only has one swimsuit. She resolves to create the ultimate swimsuit to enhance Laura's allure during the beach class. She then suggests a secretive solution to resolve Laura's issue, ending with a sinister smile. After a few days, a bunch of students gather at a beach dressed in their bikinis, ready for the beach class. It's quite sunny, and as such, most students take pleasure in playing in the water. All of the chicks show off their swimsuits to try and impress Ichika, and Cecilia takes it up a notch by asking him to rub suntan oil all over her, and enjoys it a little too much, leaving all of the other girls fuming. It all goes to hell when she requests that Ichika apply oil in all the places that she could not reach, including her luscious peach, which gags Ichika, but Rin jumps in and starts applying oil on Cecilia. This tickles her and she sits upright, revealing her bare milkers to everyone. Flustered, she punches Ichika, who then goes to chill in the water, and Rin sees an opportunity to get close to him. But before she can do that, her leg cramps up and she starts to drown. But Ichika saves her in the nick of time as Rin falls head over heels for him once more. Once everything has calmed down, Ichika gets another surprise when Charlotte shows up with a mummified Laura, who is embarrassed but takes her disguise off and shows her new swimsuit to Ichika. He calls it cute and makes her swoon, but before she can get any further, a bunch of girls ask Ichika to play beach volleyball with them, which he agrees to, and everyone is having a good time except Laura. She is still hot and heavy over being called cute, and she ends up taking a volleyball to the kisser, putting her out of commission. Maya and Chifuyu show up, and they play some beach volleyball too before everyone retires for the day. But Chifuyu finds Haoki, who is staring blankly at the sea, and asks her why she did not join the others at the beach, but all Haoki is occupied with is her sister. Chifuyu tells her that the next day was July 7th, and there was a big chance that Tabane would show up. The following evening, the students gather in the traditional Japanese inn to enjoy a meal. Here, Cecilia sits beside Ichika and experiences difficulties in maintaining a good eating posture. That is because that was not how they sat in England, and at first, Ichika asks if she is okay, and she lies by saying yes. However, Ichika sees through her BS when he notices her weird leg movement. Despite that, he offers to feed Cecilia, and she cheerfully agrees and wastes no time surrendering her chopsticks and opening her mouth to Ichika so she can get fed. But as Ichika feeds Cecilia, other female students in the building become jealous. The most affected by this is Haoki, who also fears that Ichika might forget something important about tomorrow, July 7th. Ichika's dining session with Cecilia causes the ladies to raise their voices to the extent that Chifuyu intervenes. When Chifuyu gets out of her room, she tells the students to keep their voices down and also warns her brother to behave himself in her absence. Ichika whispers, "Come to my room later," to Cecilia. The foolish young man intends to make up for the lost time with Cecilia by having a private session with her. Meanwhile, Cecilia is currently having all sorts of wild ideas a hormonal touch-starved chick might have. After the dining session ends, Cecilia prepares to go see Ichika. While she is at it, some students notice that she is up to no good. As time passes, Cecilia makes it out of the room in one piece, heading to Ichika's room. When she arrives in front of Chifuyu's room, she finds Charlotte, Rin, and the other love-struck girls eavesdropping on Chifuyu's conversation with Ichika. Out of curiosity, Cecilia joins the girls to listen, and what she hears makes her get the wrong impression as freaky words like "hold it in," "oh yeah," and "nice" fill her ears, and as a result, she becomes utterly shocked. In the quest to listen more, the girls push the door down, exposing all of them at once. It turns out that Ichika was only massaging Chifuyu, which is why she was moaning initially. Now the girls kneel in front of Chifuyu, trying to make up for their deeds. Chifuyu compliments Ichika's massaging skills, and then allows the girls to have a feel of Ichika's magic fingers. The first in the queue is Cecilia, and she becomes excited as Ichika prepares to massage her. Within minutes of pleasurable massaging, Cecilia moans, saying that she is sleepy already, and Chifuyu sends Ichika running on an errand to get some drinks. Moving on after he is gone, Chifuyu sits before the ladies and asks them what they like about her brother. She is well aware that the girls are into him. As much as Charlotte and the others try to hide it, Chifuyu sees through them. However, Charlotte and the others misjudge Chifuyu's tone, thinking that she will allow at least one of them to have her brother easily. Their happiness is short-lived as Chifuyu tells them to steal Ichika if they want him. The following day, Ichika meets Haoki at an alley, looking sad and gloomy. He tries to initiate a conversation with her, but all he gets are cold shoulders as Haoki walks away from the scene. Ichika notices some items on the ground. After he picks them up, a projectile falls from the sky, and Tabane reveals herself. Shocked, Ichika tries to answer Tabane's question concerning Haoki's whereabouts. Cecilia, who is present at the time, wonders who Tabane is. When she finds out that Tabane is Haoki's sister, her jaw is left 6 feet underground. Later that afternoon, Chifuyu assembles students who have personal IS units. Haoki's presence at the scene shocks Rin because she does not have a personal unit. When Rin speaks up, Chifuyu tries to explain Haoki's condition. However, in the midst of her explanation, Tabane arrives from nowhere and tries to hug Chifuyu. Chifuyu tries her best to resist the playful Tabane and eventually succeeds. Haoki falls victim to her sister's playful character. After Tabane recovers, she introduces herself to Ichika and the others. Shocked, Rin and the others watch as another projectile lands close to their position from the sky. Tabane walks up to the projectile and proudly calls it Haoki's personal IS unit. She explains that it's a 4th-generation unit she specially designed herself, and she claims it's better than all the new 3rd-generation units out there. While she explains the specs of the suit, Chifuyu stares at her in silence. As time passes, Haoki hops on the suit and personalizes it with Tabane's help. After the personalization sequence is complete, she takes the suit out for a test flight. When Haoki takes off from the ground, Charlotte expresses shock at the suit's magnificent acceleration. She wonders to herself if this was the power of the 4th-generation IS while staring in shock. Haoki reaches peak speed within seconds of flight, and she looks too composed while maintaining her speed. At some point, she deploys her katanas to test them out. A single swing of the weapon shoots a bunch of fast-moving beam blasts into the atmosphere. After that, Tabane deploys a missile launch system and fires countless missiles at Haoki to see how well she will perform against them, and as expected of her little sister, Haoki wipes out the missiles in a single strike. The rest of the students are left shocked at Haoki's new suit. Meanwhile, Chifuyu is the only one maintaining a resting face. Just then, Maya arrives at the scene bearing bad news from the military base. Chifuyu assesses the situation and orders Haoki to end her test run. Moving on, Chifuyu explains the situation to Ichika and the others. In her words, 2 hours ago, off the Hawaiian coast, an American-Israeli jointly developed 3rd-generation IS unit called Silver Gospel left its restriction area and went out of control. She also adds that the suit is unmanned, and those with personal IS units will have to handle the situation. Ichika, upon hearing this, expresses shock but calms down after Rin yells at him. Before the meeting proceeds further, Chifuyu makes them swear an oath that will prevent them from revealing information about the unmanned IS unit to other students. The strategic meeting begins as Laura and Cecilia try to understand Gospel's specs. Chifuyu reminds them that Gospel is traveling at supersonic speed, so it can only be defeated by an IS that can stop it in a single strike. After hearing this, all faces in the room turn to Ichika because he is the man best suited for the job. At first, Ichika panics, but after some time, he thinks deeply and accepts his mission. However, Tabane enters the room and suggests that Haoki join Ichika on the mission since her IS unit is the fastest. Later that morning, Chifuyu, Tabane, Ichika, and the others gather at a spot to begin a classified mission. Minutes before Haoki takes off, Tabane brags about Haoki's evolved IS unit. She even makes reference to a White Knight incident that happened about a decade ago. What she says makes Ichika recall the White Knight incident who about a decade ago, a month after Tabane announced the IS units, various countries' missiles were hacked, and thousands of missiles were launched at Japan. Back then, one woman in a white IS unit appeared and destroyed every missile that was aimed at Japan. The IS unit was later named the White Knight, and its wielder disappeared after saving Japan. Back in the present, Tabane claims that she does not know who piloted the White Knight. As she tries to prove her point, Chifuyu smacks her in the head. In the end, Tabane reverts to normal and adjusts some things on Haoki's suit. At exactly 11:30 am, the next day, Ichika deploys his IS unit to prepare for the classified mission. Haoki follows behind him as she deploys her IS unit too. After they both suit up, Chifuyu reminds them about the mission's objective. They are to destroy the target in one blow and come back successful. She then tells Haoki to be careful in combat since she does not have battle experience, but Haoki is extremely stoked. On the other hand, Rin and the others notice that Haoki sounds more excited than usual. Chifuyu also shares the same mindset with them, and as such, she opens a private line with Ichika to speak to him. And while on the private line, Chifuyu tells Ichika to watch out for Haoki since it's probable that she will mess up. After that, Chifuyu gets on an open channel and orders Haoki to begin the mission. She wastes no time in tearing through the air at supersonic speed. Even Ichika, who is only half as fast, wonders how Haoki can accelerate so quickly while carrying his weight. While in flight, Haoki establishes a link between her suit and a satellite, so she can find Gospel easily. When she ascertains her target's location, she speeds up even more to reach it in time and within seconds. Haoki sights her target from a distance and then tells Ichika to hold on so she can speed up. And while she speeds up, Ichika summons a huge amount of energy to his weapon, so he can use it to finish Gospel in a single strike. As he attempts a finishing strike, Gospel speeds up and evades the attack. Now, Haoki is forced to speed up even more so that Ichika can have a chance to slay the target, and so the battle escalates to the point that Gospel shoots multiple beam blasts at Haoki and Ichika. Shocked, Ichika breaks away from Haoki and tells her to attack their target from opposite sides. His plan is quite smart, as Haoki executes it perfectly, but Ichika flies off to defend a cargo ship from getting hit by stray beam blasts. Haoki becomes frustrated and yells at Ichika because he had a clear shot at Gospel. Ichika explains that innocent people would have died if he had taken his chance against Gospel. This alone enrages Haoki to the extent that she tells Ichika to care less about the ship. Ichika responds to her by saying that she should not act selfishly, since he has reason to believe that Haoki is looking down on others because she has gained a great deal of power. These words make Haoki reflect on her actions until she starts crying, but it was too late, as she is out of energy and cannot keep fighting with Ichika. Ichika, who is also out of energy, thinks about what to do to improve his chances against the target. Within seconds, he takes multiple shots from Gospel in his quest to protect Haoki. In the heat of the explosion, Haoki reaches out to Ichika to prevent him from falling into the ocean. Hours after the incident, Charlotte, Cecilia, and Rin try to check up on Chifuyu and see how she is doing. Chifuyu remains calm and declines to see them. Cecilia, on the other hand, recalls that Chifuyu has not checked up on Ichika since he began treatment hours ago. After the failed mission, Haoki watched sadly as Ichika was carried unconscious on a stretcher by medics. Cecilia and the others were shocked by Ichika's condition, while Haoki appeared visibly distressed. Laura understands that Chifuyu is actually hurting inside. In the present, Laura clarifies that Chifuyu appears cold only because she's deeply focused on the mission. Meanwhile, Chifuyu's frustration is evident in secret despite her attempts to maintain a facade of composure. At sunset, Haoki sits beside Ichika, wishing that he would wake up. Ichika is currently in a coma, and it looks to everyone like he will not wake up anytime soon. While Haoki sits there, she recalls what happened after Ichika was taken from the ocean. Back then, Chifuyu ended the mission but ordered her team to stay on standby. In the present, Haoki weeps because she blames herself for Ichika's condition. While she weeps, she wonders how Ichika can have such a big heart to forgive and rescue people he doesn't even know. She ends up regretting her actions and the power she gained from her personal IS unit. Maya arrives in the room shortly and tells her to get some rest. At first, Haoki insists on staying with Ichika, but after receiving a direct order from Chifuyu, she gets up and leaves. She runs out of the room, heading for the beach, but she loses energy and stops to catch her breath. There, she recalls a time in the past when she was in elementary school. Back then, her classmates used to pick on her because she was not girly enough. One day, Ichika had enough of the bullying and stepped in to chase her bullies away. Ichika's actions shocked Haoki a lot, to the extent that she called him foolish. However, Ichika assured her that he was just looking out for her. He also complimented a ribbon on Haoki's head, but she pretended not to like it. Haoki recalls this moment in the present as she stares at the ocean. Just then, Rin arrives at the scene and reminds Haoki that she is responsible for Ichika's condition, and because she is super angry, Rin drags Haoki by the collar and tells her to quit looking depressed. She uses the grief in Haoki's heart as a catalyst to instill a fighting spirit in Haoki so she does not lose hope. However, Haoki gets slapped across the face when she says that she will not use her IS unit enema, and Rin tells Haoki to get her act together and stop acting like a spoiled princess, while Haoki is shedding tears of regret and despair. These words motivate Haoki to the extent that she gets up, yelling that she will fight. After hearing this, Rin smiles, and the other girls join her at the scene. It turns out that it was all a plan to get Haoki out of her depression and convince her to fight. Then, a mini-strategic meeting begins between the girls as Laura ascertains Gospel's precise location using satellite imaging. Within minutes, the girls all agree to go after Gospel and finish the mission, despite Chifuyu's warnings. Later that night, Laura deploys her cannon and fires a barrier-piercing missile at Gospel. Upon impact with Gospel, Chifuyu and her team receive intel that the girls defied her orders. Despite that, she stares at her screens and refuses to call the girls back. The missile from Laura's cannon negates Gospel's energy barrier to the extent that it depletes completely. After that, Gospel charges at Laura and her comrades, dodging numerous missiles on the way. Gospel's evasive movements cause Cecilia to encounter difficulties in landing a single shot on it. Gospel evades to the extent that it falls into a positional trap set by Charlotte. Despite that, it speeds up quickly and dodges all shots from Charlotte's weapon. At some point, Gospel returns the favor to Charlotte and uses the opportunity to gain altitude. Meanwhile, in Ichika's subconscious mind, he sees a strange girl standing on water. Out of curiosity, Ichika hops off a tree and walks closer to the girl, trying to understand why she seems so familiar. About a few feet away from the girl, she mutters, "It's calling me," and fades into thin air. In her absence, Ichika expresses shock and wonders what just happened. Back in reality, Rin and Cecilia manage to pin Gospel at a point on the ocean. Rin powers up to fire countless shots at the enemy, but Cecilia fails to maintain her position. As a result, Gospel flies off, leaving Rin chasing after it. Back in Ichika's mind, the scenery changes to that of a sunset, where Ichika sees a figure asking him if he desires power. In the present, Haoki goes head-to-head with Gospel, and manages to land a nasty strike on it that sends it falling into the ocean. Within seconds, Gospel recovers and slides out of the ocean, controlling a vast amount of water while enclosed in an energy barrier. It assumes its second form, which grants it access to more power. In the meantime, Ichika takes some time to answer the million-dollar question asked of him previously. Finally, he affirms that he seeks power to protect his friends. Seconds after saying this, the scenery reverts to normal, and he sees the strange girl from earlier again. The girl grabs hold of Ichika's hand, and a bright light fades him back to reality. Back in reality, Gospel summons a great deal of energy and shoots Haoki from the sky. Even Cecilia and Charlotte are not spared from Gospel's wrath as they get beaten and thrown to the ground. Before Haoki passes out completely, she wishes to see Ichika again. The next time she opens her eyes, she sees Ichika standing close to her. Shocked, Haoki wonders how Ichika healed so quickly, but he assures her that everything is fine. Tears roll down Haoki's eyes because Ichika is alive and well. Ichika hands her a handkerchief to wipe her tears, and he also wishes her a happy birthday, shocking her that he had remembered July 7th. Haoki expresses shock after hearing this because she was previously sure that Ichika had forgotten about her birthday. After that, Ichika flies off to settle things with Gospel. In the heat of the moment, Chifuyu receives intel that Ichika is conscious. After hearing this, Maya monitors her computers to track Ichika's speed and energy output. Based on her observations, she notices that Ichika is using his suit's second form, just like Gospel. This time, Ichika means business, as he easily erects a barrier to stop all incoming missiles from Gospel. The way he defends himself surprises Haoki, who joins the fight soon after, giving Ichika some time to recover. Laura and the other girls recover too, and look happy to see that Ichika is conscious. Cecilia looks pumped up for a counterattack against Gospel, and the other girls share the same mindset. Ichika leads the counterattack as he flies into the atmosphere, heading for Gospel. Haoki's desire to fight alongside him intensifies, and as such her energy charges up to 200%. Maya and Chifuyu watch from behind a large screen as Ichika goes head-to-head with Gospel. Due to the intensity of his attacks, Ichika's shield energy depletes at a high rate until he runs out. But the good news is that Cecilia, Laura, and the others are there to take over from him. While the ladies are up against Gospel, Haoki arrives and charges Ichika's suit up with energy. Now, Ichika is back in the game and ready to inflict significant damage on Gospel. Haoki charges ferociously at Gospel, while Ichika follows behind to provide rear support. Haoki goes head-to-head with the enemy, but fails to keep up. At this point, Ichika steps in and assumes full offense. This time, he leads Gospel into a positional trap set by Laura. The attacks manage to do a little damage to Gospel, but it's not enough to take it out. In anger, Gospel returns the favor to Laura, but Cecilia steps in to protect her. Gospel then gets desperate and summons beam blasts and spirals to clear any threat at any radius from itself. While explosions wreak havoc on the scene, Ichika accelerates instantly and spears Gospel to the other side of the ocean. Here, Ichika stabs Gospel with his weapon to finish it off for good. As Gospel goes offline, Rin, Laura, and the others gather around Ichika. Later that morning, Ichika, Haoki, and the others appear before Chifuyu and Maya, awaiting their punishments. Chifuyu intends to punish them by organizing special training, which is compulsory for them to attend. After saying this, Maya calls Chifuyu out on the fact that she is being a bit cold. With this in mind, Chifuyu commends the students on their battle performance and dismisses them. Later that evening, some students question Charlotte and the others about the details of their previous battle. Because the girls previously swore an oath, they now decline to reveal any information in that regard. They do so by telling the girls that they would get punished too if they knew of the details. They then start to wonder where Haoki and Ichika were. While outside the inn, Chifuyu tracks down Tabane, who is staring at the sea. She asks her hypothetically if she made the original IS malfunction, so it would appear as if a male was able to pilot it. And when she turns that idea down, Chifuyu proposes another hypothetical whether she had planned to make her sister appear in the spotlight while making her grand return. Tabane just smiles, saying that even she was not sure why Ichika was able to pilot an infinite Stratos. Then, Chifuyu tells her that she had hacked into 12 countries' databases, but Tabane deflects the accusation by asking her if she enjoyed the current world, and when Chifuyu says she does, Tabane disappears. Meanwhile, Ichika is sitting at the shore thinking about taking a dip when Haoki shows up. The two of them get to talking, with both of them worrying for one another. But the moment is ruined when Haoki's honkers are shoved into his face. When he lets her know, she just smiles, thinking about how Ichika actually looked at her like a woman, and then Ichika leans in to kiss her. But before they can lock lips, the rest of the girls show up and try to blast the lovebirds into oblivion for the betrayal, and Ichika quickly grabs Haoki and carries her away from the jealous psychotic bimbos. That is it for today's video. If you watched till the end, comment Ichika's magic fingers to confuse the normies. To check out more cool anime recaps, click this video right here.